Monsieur le coordinateur du Centre d'études linguistiques et historiques par tradition orale, mon cher frère Toublou, Monsieur le président de l'Assemblée des académiciens de l'Académie africaine des langues, professeur Sami Chumbo, Monsieur le président de la session, cette session, mon cher grand frère, professeur Farita, Madame la coordinatrice du comité de coordination de la Semaine des langues africaines, Madame Margaret Nankinga, chers membres du comité de coordination de la Semaine des langues africaines, mesdames et messieurs. La deuxième édition de la Semaine des langues africaines se tient sous le thème « Les langues africaines pour une sécurité alimentaire durable, un développement culturel et socio-économique pour l'Afrique que nous voulons ». La mise en place du comité de coordination de la Semaine des langues africaines est l'une des recommandations de la réunion de Ouagadougou de juillet 2021, consacrant le lancement de la Semaine des langues africaines. C'est ainsi qu'un comité composant de 24 membres a été mis en place par le secrétariat exécutif de l'ACALAN. Les personnes qui composent ce comité ont été choisies sur la base des critères très rigoureux liés à leur connaissance des langues et à leur engagement en faveur des langues africaines. Ainsi, la politique de l'inclusivité de 5 régions de l'Afrique et de la diaspora, qui est la 6e région de l'Union africaine, a été respectée. C'est le lieu pour moi d'adresser mes très vives et chaleureuses félicitations aux membres du comité pour le choix porté sur eux par le secrétariat exécutif de l'ACALAN. Comme vous le savez très bien, la Semaine des langues africaines est un rendez-vous perpétuel, est un événement annuel majeur qui se tient du 24 au 30 janvier et qui doit être observé par tous les États membres de l'Union africaine pour magnifier la pertinence des langues et des cultures africaines en Afrique et dans la diaspora africaine, et comme un moment particulier de l'affirmation de l'identité africaine. Je voudrais remercier les gouvernements des États membres de l'Union africaine pour la grande mobilisation autour des activités de la deuxième édition de la Semaine de langue africaine. Ainsi, durant une semaine, du 24 au 30 janvier 2023, des conférences de presse, des animations culturelles et artistiques, des campagnes de valorisation et de promotion des langues africaines ont été organisées dans tout le continent africain et dans la diaspora. Cela a été possible grâce à l'implication personnelle de son Excellence, Madame Minata Samate Sessouma, commissaire à la santé, aux affaires humanitaires et au développement social de la Commission de l'Union africaine, qui a mobilisé l'ensemble des ministres en charge des langues nationales pour la création des comités nationaux d'organisation des activités de la Semaine de langue africaine. Que l'on soit remercié. Mesdames, Messieurs, chers participants, la question des langues met les Africains devant leurs responsabilités. Pour aspirer à un développement durable, les décideurs africains doivent placer au cœur de leur projet de développement la question des langues. C'est pourquoi il est indispensable de créer les conditions permanentes aux langues africaines de devenir véritablement des langues de travail opérationnelles maîtrisées par les communautés fondant le projet de développement endogène de l'Afrique. Cependant, promouvoir les langues africaines, en faire des langues de travail dans toutes les activités de la vie politique et privée de nos pays, ne doit pas signifier un enfermement sur soi. Les langues héritées de la colonisation sont des langues partenaires. En clair, aucune langue n'est plus importante qu'une autre et aucune langue ne doit être marginalisée. Le président de l'Assemblée vient de le dire ici. Il doit au contraire exister un rapport de complémentarité entre les langues. Mesdames, Messieurs, chers participants, je voudrais vous adresser mes sincères remerciements pour avoir répondu à l'invitation de l'ACALAN et pour votre disponibilité. Mes remerciements vont particulièrement à Madame Angela Martins, directrice par intérim du département de développement social, de la culture et du sport de la Commission de l'Union africaine pour son soutien à l'ACALAN, son soutien permanent à l'ACALAN. Madame, je voudrais vous présenter mes vives félicitations suite à votre nomination en qualité de directrice par intérim du département social, humanitaire et département social de la culture et des sports, dans l'espoir, sincèrement, que vous serez confirmé.
I seize this opportunity to warmly welcome everyone to this meeting, an important occasion for all of us. This first meeting of the members of the committee is taking place within the framework of the activities of the second edition of the African Languages Week 2023, around the theme of the year 2022 of the African Union that you have chosen. African languages for sustainable food security, cultural and socio-economic development for the Africa we want. It is happening in Senegal, the country that held the chairmanship of the African Union for 2022. The chairperson, the outgoing chairperson of the African Union, His Excellency President Macky Sall, has advocated that Africa should be judged for what it does and not for what they think Africa should do. Our main role, on the one hand, is to address the challenges and to ensure that African languages dominate the development discourse in all AU member states, so that we can easily remove the negative way of thinking about Africa from people's minds, because the opposite creates language barriers and prevents citizens from participating in the development of their nations. And on the other hand, it is to mobilize human, technical, and financial resources throughout the continent and in the diaspora, in collaboration with the national language structures of the member states. We all know that language conveys a people's culture, but few African countries have well-articulated language policies that are integrated into the development of society at all levels. Indeed, Africa needs positive communication to boost the positive image and play a full role in the global level. President Sall said at the 10th Summit of Heads of State of the World Governments in Dubai as chair of the African Union. He added that agriculture is the backbone of Africa, yet important communications are still in foreign languages, and that the majority of the rural African populations who are more involved in agriculture do not speak or understand these languages. As you said, among other slogans on the celebration of this edition of the African Languages Week, what we speak and what we eat makes Africa great. Ladies and gentlemen, the workshop will also seek to encourage the commitment of stakeholders to create positive conditions for the use and promotion of African languages for the benefit of present and future generations, in order to foster peaceful, sustainable, just, inclusive, and resilient societies. Let us all unite and work hand in hand to give the best we have to Africa, the cradle of mankind and fount of culture, so that the African Languages Week is widely known in our countries and that our leaders take ownership of it, because the important factor in the development of any people is the ownership of its narrative. Therefore, the use of African languages by Africans will lead to socio-economic development, and this should be a major priority of the African people. We are glad that the first step was taken by the AU Assembly, as it was mentioned here, when they endorsed Swahili as a working language of the African Union. As you know, Africa is an extremely multilingual continent, and this multilingual reality must be respected and maintained. The idea of localizing African languages will strengthen African identity and ensure Africa's place on the global language scene. This choice reinforces the need for a common voice for peace, security, and economic integration in Africa. In this way, also the South African former President Nelson Mandela said, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. As members of this coordinating committee, let us do our best to allow our fellow Africans to talk to themselves in their respective languages, which can be possible only if we arrive to introduce the African languages into school curricula, to make them not only the official and all working languages, but also the languages of large diffusion in our local and international media. As I conclude, allow me also to mention that the AU Assembly, in the just concluded session, has endorsed education as the theme for 2024. Given the linkages between education and culture, we hope ACALAN will take this golden opportunity to work closely with our education colleagues in promoting further the development of African languages. I would like to express my sincere thanks to the government and people of Senegal for their warm welcome. I would also like to thank the members of the Coordinating Committee of the African Languages Week, the staff and secretariat of the African Academy of Languages, and the African Union Center for Linguistic and Historical Studies through Oral Tradition, as well as all the regional bodies responsible for the promotion of African languages, indigenous peoples and organizations, researchers and experts in the field of African languages who are present here, and for their hard work to promote African languages on the continent. On behalf of Her Excellency, Ambassador Minato Samati Sisuma, the Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development of the African Union, I declare the workshop and planning meeting for the African Languages Week Coordinating Committee open. Asante sana, shukran jazila, muito obrigado, merci beaucoup, and thank you very much.
Qu'il est devenu ce qu'il est, grâce à son engagement, grâce au travail, grâce au désir, n'est-ce pas, de réussir la mission et la vision de la CAN. Et si je me ramène à 2008-2009, quand ces deux, Dr. B et Dr. J, sont venus à l'ACALAN, déjà armés de connaissances, puisqu'ils étaient déjà docteurs, mais ils devaient avoir des connaissances approfondies de la langue, de linguistique et de la mission de l'ACALAN. Et ils se sont donnés, n'est-ce pas? Ils ont beaucoup travaillé et on voyait leur passion. C'est pour cela qu'on n'a pas hésité, n'est-ce pas, de le nommer comme secrétaire exécutif, parce qu'il a bien appris, n'est-ce pas, non seulement la vision et la mission de l'Académie, de l'Union africaine, pour dire considérer, mais aussi, ils avaient déjà un engagement, un dévouement, n'est-ce pas, avéré. C'est pour ça qu'ils ont pu réussir la mission. Maintenant que vous êtes nos associés et nos partenaires, je recommande la même attitude. C'est-à-dire qu'avec un engagement, avec un esprit de dévouement et une volonté de faire pour réussir, je crois que vous pouvez faire une bonne contribution à la mission et à la vision de la CAN. C'est pour cela qu'il vous a choisi, il vous a convié ici, pour que nous puissions mener à bien la semaine des langues africaines comme idéal, pour que chaque pays de l'Afrique puisse réussir à faire valoir les langues africaines, pour que ces langues deviennent de véritables facteurs de développement dans chacun de nos pays, conformément à la volonté de l'Union africaine. Je vous remercie.
Je voudrais, au nom de toute l'Académie sénégalaise des langues, qui est une extension de l'ACALAN au Sénégal, et au nom de tout le Sénégal, tout notre pays, vous dire soyez les bienvenus dans votre pays, le Sénégal. Nous sommes ensemble. Nous voudrions d'abord, sans être long, exprimer notre honneur et notre fierté d'accueillir ici au Sénégal ces travaux du comité de l'ACALAN. Nous avons eu quelques retards techniques dus à des différents calendriers que nous ne maîtrisions pas. Mais voilà que l'ACALAN a tenu quand même à respecter son calendrier et à faire le travail dans les meilleures conditions comme ils l'ont toujours fait. Et je voudrais vraiment remercier par-delà le professeur Chami Fumbo, qui est notre président de l'Assemblée des académiciens, remercie très fraternellement et sincèrement notre petit frère, l'enfant d'enfant, secrétaire et l'ensemble de son équipe que je connais très bien, qui ont fait un excellent travail depuis qu'il a commencé sa magistrature à la tête de la...
We are here only, one, to report, to consolidate on the gains, to, develop on the challenges so that we can move on to the new horizon. When our director was talking the other time, she has already proceeded this meeting. She has given us the focus, and ours is now to follow. There are two things that I want us to take away, which are very important, which we are going to work upon during this meeting. Number one, we are going to look at programs and projects that will promote education within the continent. And then number two, we are going to look at programs that will deal with eradicating the artificial boundaries created by colonialism.
You have the governing board as the next body. The governing board is the highest policy organ of ACALAN. Our governing board is responsible for adopting our policy documents like this African Languages Week, Kiswahili as a working language of the AU. Before it goes to the STC, it goes to the governing board. After the scientific committee and the assembly looks at it, then we take it there for policy adoption, and then it goes to the STC, and then before it goes to the PRC and the Executive Council, and then to the heads of state if necessary. And then the chair of the culture component of the STC is the chair of our governing board. So when we call a governing board meeting to adopt our policy documents, now I think it's Nigeria, we call them to chair this thing, and the president of the assembly is a member of the governing board also, and selected members, we could select members from the working structures of ACALAN, Vehicular Cross-Border Language Commissions, and national language structures to be part of it. We can invite people, institutions and organizations to come there, but as observers. They wouldn't have any voting right in the governing board. And we have the Assembly of Academicians, which is there to guide ACALAN's language policy operations. We report to them, they look at our documents and make sure that this goes along with the African Union's language program, and they adopt it, and then we then carry it on. And then you have the Scientific and Technical Committee. The Scientific and Technical Committee, we bring them together twice every year. The assembly meeting statutorily takes place according to the present statute. We are trying to amend that. they meet once every 2 years. But the Scientific and Technical Committee meets at least twice a year, because they look at our programs, our budget, and then advise us, and then we carry it on. And then at the end of the year, we can meet again and report, present our reports to them before we take it to anyway. And then you have the Executive Secretariat, which is the administrative unit responsible for the day-to-day running of ACALAN. The Executive Secretary is the legal representative of the African Union in terms of language matters. He's the Chief Accounting Officer of the African Academy of Languages. And we do this like the AU Commission is there to run the day-to-day operations of the African Union. Then we go to the Vehicular Cross-Border Language Commissions. We have 2 working structures. These 5 are our organs, and these 2 below are our working structures. Vehicular Cross-Border Language Commissions, we take an example of EVE. We bring people, experts, journalists, artists, musicians, historians, archaeologists, economists, to sit down in this committee because they have the knowledge of their languages, and they will come together to develop this language, to empower this language according to the African Union's Language Plan of Action for Africa. The second, this is a sub-regional structure because the members come from each country in which the languages are spoken. And then below you have national language structures, which are institutional focal points in each member state. The strategy here is that to implicate, to involve the central government in our activities, because the idea is that we can do whatever we can do here. We can plan and come up with beautiful things, but as long as these things are not endorsed by the policy makers, we wouldn't make much difference. So the idea here is that when we come and do harmonization of the writing system of a language, we bring the national structures of the countries in which these languages are spoken. And we do this thing together. Look at the orthography, the tones, and all those things. And then when they go back, they would report to their ministries, and the ministries would get these things up to the central government, and they will be aware of it. Tomorrow, nobody would, where did you get this thing from? The report is there. Those who participate in it. For example, the last one we did in Burkina Faso, we have Songhai, Soninke, Ewe, and some other languages. So we brought members of the language commissions and all the national structures in the countries in which these languages are spoken. And then we have regional and national institutions and organizations which are partners. CELTO is not a regional organization. CELTO is a continental organization like ACALAN with a continental mandate for African history, languages, and oral tradition. So these ones are Sendotola, Sisiba, the International Center for Bantu Civilization, and any organization or institution that is dealing with the development of African languages. And then you have regional and sub-regional institutions of education, which are, you can't do anything in education without languages. Now, I talked about vehicular cross-border language commissions and national language structures as our 2 main structures. These are their terms of functioning. Their responsibility, basically, to encourage sponsor, undertake research in the language, harmonize the orthographic differences. We don't harmonize the language, we harmonize the writing systems, and we accept all the differences. Just like English. When you say, what do I call it? What you will call in England You know, there is another version in America. When you speak, people will know that you are speaking American English. You know? And the others would know. When you say gas in America, what is it? That's petrol or fuel in Britain. And then traffic light is robot in South Africa, for example. So when you speak these terms, we know that you are speaking English, but these are varieties that are acceptable, and we know that these things are comprehensible and so on. So our languages, for example, in the Gambia, I have one example. Small Gambia, you can leave the Banjul and go to the end, Fatoto, and come back the very day. But when you go to Fatoto, cassava is called Bantara. And in my area and other parts, it's called Nyambo. You see the difference? But if you speak, you say, Bantara Dinna, give me this Nyambo. Everybody will know that this one is coming from that end. And we accept it and go. So, to engage in language promotion activities, to undertake terminology creation in order to facilitate the use of the language as a wider, language of wider communication, etc. And that is a repetition, I think. You know, you will look at this. We will give you this presentation. You will look at all those things. Now, ACALAN's projects are here. Initially we have 6 core projects, and then we have other projects that emanate from the activities of our structures. Now, first of all, Linguistic Atlas for Africa, which is very, very important. People say we have 2,000 languages, 2010, etc., but we don't precisely know the number of African languages on the continent. So the objective of this project is to determine precisely the number of African languages, their interrelations, and their dialectical variations. Some languages, for example, Mandingo and Bambara, we put them together, but you have about 70% difference in this language. So when you speak, you know, in Bambara they say Mbewele. Mbewele means I will call you. But in my language, Mandingo, we'll say Mbe Kumandela. These are different.
Impressed by the long and meaningful presentation from the Executive Secretary. I was more attracted to what he said in the last slides, especially regarding promoting the African literature, writers writing in African languages, and it is also one of the objectives of power. And was interested, actually, I am requesting openly for partnership in that direction, because power has done it in the past and has some expertise which you may need in organizing the literary prize.
To him and to this house, it's my concern in my country regarding the relationship between the African Ministers of Culture and ACALAN, especially the rules when it comes to the rules and interaction when it comes to the national structures of ACALAN.
Be empowered to enable them to do their work. What do I mean by empowering? Much of the work we need to do has anything research. We said we are going to do this research, this is how we are going to do it, and then you look at it. If it's within ACALAN's means what they want.
A few points on my side on the issue of the prize of excellence, which was also raised by Mr. Rosindi. I would like to say that we need to really structure the prize very well and make it, maybe raise the level of the prize to make it a continental prize.
For the language commissions, You know, I used to give the Luganda Commission as an example of proactivity when it comes to the terms of reference for the functioning of language commissions. I've given here. And Dr. Ojo, since the creation of this, I will tell you sincerely, every meeting we have would come up with this idea to empower the language commissions. Otherwise, he would say it's useless to have them if we don't empower them because they don't have means. And this is very important.
And I'm glad that we are together with the director and thinking along those lines. So we think that some budget should be given all this year to put together a number of things that are ready. For instance, we are talking about the commissions, language commissions, as if they have done nothing. We actually had a meeting where they all presented what they have done. So we need to publish what they have done so that the African Union and members will see that they are doing something and they can now allocate resources for them to continue.
You go to North to free for freedom, and from freedom we're coming back to Africa. So this triangle slave trade was from Africa to the south and then to the north. So we're doing the reverse. And what it's doing is waking people up and making them aware that they absolutely should know at least one word in Africa if you're African American.
Je crois que le seul toit avait commencé ça depuis longtemps, avec Artou, avec Mangorignon. À l'époque, moi j'étais là-bas. Et c'était une excellente idée. Et c'est pas pour ça, parce que la numérisation aujourd'hui, ça permet un accès plus facile. Et une conservation des comptes. On avait dit même à l'époque, avec Mangoré, en 2005.
So I propose, there's something that has been on and on. This African Languages Week, we said we can push a country. Why don't we push a country which can show others how it is done, which has moved, so that then we drive up, we say, you are still here, but see, this is what has been done.
For Africa, all languages that are homegrown on African soil are indigenous languages, and African Union considers them as languages that should be used for the development of the people and should be developed equally without any discrimination. And we quoted an example that was very convincing when we showed them that a language which they consider as a minor language, like the language of the Bororos, which is Fufude. And we told them Fufude for us is a mega language, which is one of and so it does not have that kind of stigma which the indigenous has, because African Union has that policy towards its languages.
It was also recommended that there was need to build a sign language resource center to train people in African sign languages. There should be language policy development in member states. There's also need to use the media to promote the activities of the African Languages Week.
By the Commissioner sending a call to all member states with the theme that we are going to agree upon, and also guidelines on how this celebration will take place. And finally, that we request member states to provide a report of the activities on the celebration of African Languages Week. This is what I said.
Member states should be sensitized to commemorate the African Languages Week. If we want to put Africa Day there, like they did in Africa Day, for Africa Day, and should produce reports on their activities. That is a recommendation. So I don't know whether we have time, and where it is written technology for these member states that we listed, it's not a recommendation. We are just saying these people have this, but what should we do about that? That's what is the recommendation. So we should say, the following member states have advanced in this technology, something like that. ACALAN or the committee should do something about that.
Nous voudrions aussi adresser nos remerciements à la directrice du développement social, culture et sport, Madame Angela Martins, pour le support apporté à la promotion de la Semaine des langues africaines et pour sa guidance. Nos remerciements vont également au coordonnateur du CELTO, M. Toublou Komi, pour son engagement pour la cause des langues africaines.
L'objectif de la Semaine des langues africaines 2024 doit être, comme convenu lors de cette réunion, l'appropriation effective de la célébration de la Semaine des langues africaines par nos États membres de l'Union africaine. Nous sommes tous, en tant que membres du comité continental de la Semaine des langues africaines, nous sommes tous des ambassadeurs de l'ACALAN auprès de nos pays. Et en même temps, nous sommes des ambassadeurs de nos pays auprès de l'ACALAN. Cela veut dire que nous avons une responsabilité, un devoir au retour. Nous avons ce devoir que nous partageons avec les points cocos de l'ACALAN. À cet effet, nous devons, par un plaidoyer approprié, sensibiliser les ministres de la culture et de l'enseignement et tous les ministres en charge de la langue et de la culture pour qu'ils puissent s'engager à célébrer la Semaine des langues africaines. Et au-delà de la célébration, pour qu'il y ait un engagement pour faire valoir les langues africaines au service de l'enseignement et au développement de nos pays membres de la nation. Nous avons, comme vous l'avez pu constater, eu à faire valoir le rôle des langues africaines comme facteur de développement. C'est un phénomène qui est bien connu des spécialistes et des hommes politiques de nos pays. Ce qu'il faut, c'est de les amener à un engagement, à une prise de conscience, n'est-ce pas, pour faire valoir une politique, la mise en œuvre d'une politique, puisque la plupart de nos pays ont déjà une politique. Il est question pour nous de canaliser les activités pour que l'an prochain, nous puissions avoir un autre discours lors de ces réunions. Il ne s'agira plus de présenter ce que nous avons fait en tant que membres de cette commission continentale, mais ce que nos pays ont effectivement fait pour faire avancer la politique de langue africaine au service du développement. Je vous remercie.
Président de la session. Madame la directrice par intérim du département de développement social, de la culture et du sport, Madame Angela Martins, Monsieur le coordinateur du Centre d'études linguistiques et historiques par tradition orale, mon cher frère Toublou, Monsieur le président de l'Assemblée des académiciens de l'ACALAN, professeur Sami Chumbo, Monsieur le sous-directeur de la diversité culturelle du ministère des Arts et de la Culture du Cameroun, Monsieur Eboko Mendiano, Monsieur le président de la session, professeur Farid Silatka, Madame la coordinatrice du comité de coordination de la Semaine des langues africaines, Madame Margaret Nakinga, chers membres du comité de coordination de la Semaine des langues africaines, mesdames et messieurs, nous voilà au terme des 2 jours de travaux de la réunion de planification du comité de coordination de la Semaine des langues africaines. Sans tirer un bilan, je me réjouis des résultats enregistrés ici à Dakar et nous pouvons en être fiers au regard des défis auxquels font face les langues africaines. La semaine de langue africaine est un bébé. Ma soeur vient de le dire, un bébé qui aime le lait, c'est un bébé qui doit grandir. C'est donc un processus qui va certainement s'étendre sur une longue période et nous devons nous y atteler. Durant 2 jours, vous avez ménagé ni votre temps, vous n'avez ménagé ni votre temps ni votre énergie pour donner le meilleur de vous-même à travers vos brillantes contributions concernant l'identification du thème de l'édition 2024 de la Semaine de langue africaine, la mobilisation des ressources, les stratégies de visibilité, la déclaration de Dakar, les commentaires, les débats, les discussions, les 2 jours de réunion montrent à suffisance que nous regardons dans la même direction. Je voudrais vous féliciter tous pour les résultats engrangés en seulement 2 éditions de la Semaine de langue africaine. Cependant, nous devons donc redoubler d'ardeur, de courage, d'abnégation pour prouver à nos concitoyens qu'aucun développement n'est possible en Afrique sans une meilleure imprégnation de nos langues locales. Pour cela, l'ACALAN compte sur la disponibilité et l'engagement de chacun de vous et reste à votre écoute pour toute proposition que vous jugerez nécessaire pour l'atteinte de nos objectifs. Je peux d'ores et déjà vous assurer du soutien de l'ACALAN à travers le département du développement social, de la culture et du sport de la Commission de l'Union africaine. Mesdames et messieurs, chers participants, avant de terminer, je voudrais remercier très sincèrement les partenaires de l'ACALAN dans la célébration de la Semaine des langues africaines, notamment au Legal Consult, l'organisation panafricaine des jeunes pour la promotion de l'intégration et l'intégration africaine, aux pages hier, l'association panafricaine des écrivains PAWA et l'association des jeunes écrivains de la Gambie. Je remercie M. Eboko Mendiana, sous-directeur de la diversité culturelle du Cameroun. Il a certes raté les travaux de la première journée, mais le rapport qu'il a présenté sur les activités de la Semaine de langue africaine nous rassure en ce qui concerne la volonté politique du Cameroun vis-à-vis des langues africaines. Monsieur le sous-directeur, veuillez transmettre les remerciements de l'ACALAN aux autorités camerounaises. Mesdames et messieurs, permettez-moi de faire une mention spéciale à notre directrice, Madame Angela Martins, notre directrice par intérim, Madame Angela Martins, pour sa brillante contribution aux travaux de cette réunion. À travers Madame Angela Martins, je remercie son Excellence, Madame Ambassadeur Minata Samati Sessouma, commissaire à la santé, aux affaires humanitaires et au développement social de la Commission de l'Union africaine, son soutien constant aux activités de l'ACALAN. Lors de sa récente visite au Mali, Madame la commissaire, malgré son agenda très chargé, a tenu à rencontrer le personnel de l'ACALAN pour échanger sur les problèmes, les défis et les perspectives de l'institution. La séance de travail que l'ACALAN a eue avec Madame la commissaire nous réserve des bonnes perspectives pour l'ACALAN. Madame la directrice, veuillez transmettre les salutations et les remerciements de l'ACALAN à Madame la commissaire. Mes remerciements vont à l'endroit du professeur Sami Boban Chumbo, président de l'Assemblée des académiciens de l'ACALAN, mon frère Yves Toublou et Madame Néné Gay, respectivement coordinateur et chargé de programme, chargé principal de programme langue nationale du centre. Le professeur Farissi Lafka, académicien de l'ACALAN et coordonnateur de la commission de langue transfrontalière véhiculaire Foufoulé de l'ACALAN, ici à Dakar. De la coordinatrice du comité, ma sœur Margaret Nakinga, son adjoint Dr Tiga Alain Ouedrabo, et à tous les membres de ce comité. Je réitère mes remerciements au gouvernement de la République du Sénégal pour son soutien constant et sa disponibilité. Enfin, mes remerciements vont à l'endroit des interprètes et du personnel de l'hôtel Ngor Diarama. Nos interprètes font partie du comité de la Semaine des langues africaines. Vive les langues africaines pour une Afrique pacifique, prospère, intégrée et en bonne santé. Tiridimdef, Diarama, Asante Nisana.
On behalf of Her Excellency Ambassador Minata Samat Sissouma, the Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development of the African Union, I wish to express gratitude to the committee members of the African Languages Week, led by Mrs. Margaret Nakinga, for their dedication, commitment, and hard work to ensure the commemoration of the African Languages Week for 2023 and the planning for the 2024 edition. I wish also to thank the ACALAN team led by Dr. Damfat for the excellent work that they are doing to promote the implementation of our baby, the African Languages Week. Dr. Damfat has mentioned several times during the workshop and also a few minutes ago that the Commissioner visited Bamako and ACALAN earlier this month. And what the Commissioner told me when she came back to Addis was that the Executive Secretary of ACALAN is a passionate man and knows what he's doing. So what he needs from us is a lot of support. So when I told her I was coming here, she just told me to come, even though we were busy with too many other activities. Allow me also to thank Professor Chumbu and Professor Farika, the chairperson and member of ACALAN Assembly of Academicians, for their expertise and availability to support ACALAN's work. My thanks also go to CELTO, ACALAN's sister institution, for their contribution and work on the implementation of the African Languages Week. I wish also to thank POWER and to thank all the partners in this room that have assisted in making the edition of the African Languages Week for 2023 a reality. Ladies and gentlemen, we have taken note of the achievements made, challenges encountered, and plans for 2024, and as the African Union Commission, we will do everything possible to empower the African Languages Committee to enable that it discharges its mandate successfully. The major challenge, as discussed, is financing, and there's not a better answer to that than requesting for support from our member states. For this to happen, the need to increase the popularization and visibility of the African Languages Week cannot be overemphasized. On our part, as the AU Commission, we are ready to support ACALAN when they present their 2024 program budget to the subcommittee on finance. When they present their budget to the subcommittee on finance and general supervision, which should include an enhanced budget line on the commemoration of the African Languages Week. As we move forward with the planning of the third edition of the African Languages Week for 2024, we would like to request that we finalize the plans started here, including the theme and its roadmap for implementation. No partner will think twice to support the initiative if we have an impactful theme and a clear and comprehensive roadmap geared for tangible results. With these few words, and on behalf of Her Excellency Ambassador Minata Samati Sisuma, the Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development of the African Union, I declare the workshop and planning meeting for African Languages Week closed. I wish you all safe travels back to your countries for those who are traveling. For Professor Carr, we wish him good health and good continuing stay. And please keep up the excellent work that you are doing in promoting African Languages Week. Long live the African Languages Week. Long live ACALAN. Long live the African Union. Long live African Languages has levers for quality education and free trade for the